We'll start with the Olympics. A couple important dates coming up. How confident are you that the Olympic Committee is going to support the bid and that you're going to get the extra financing or the financing from the different levels of government?
Number one is I think that the Canadian Olympic Committee really understands the great vision of what we're trying to build here. So I'm not particularly concerned about that. Getting the multi-party agreement in place, which is the financing from the federal and the provincial governments, really remains the next big political issue here. And we're going to be negotiating that through the summer. And hopefully we'll be able to come to Calgarians with a deal that makes sense prior to a plebiscite sometime very early in the fall.
This summer, I thought that was happening by the end of June, sir.
You're a little behind, sir.
Oh,
As per our last Olympic Committee meeting.
Then went into July, and now September?
I anticipate early in September.
Okay, and are you among the Calgarians taking part in this trip to the IOC in Lausanne?
No, not that I know of. I will spend some time with the Canadian Olympic Committee at their retreat this Friday in Banff. So it's an hour-long drive, not a very long flight.
So if you don't have the names, I guess maybe the types of people from Calgary or related to the bid that would
That's a
know?
question for Councillor Woolley, because I do not know. I don't know if he knows.
And so we're going to Whistler for ski jumping?
It's still up in the air. Certainly a lot of analysis still needs to be done on that question.
Are you looking at
Did you
several?
get that up in the air? Did you like that?
Are you looking at in the venue? Are you looking at different cities? Because that was part of the pre-work that you were doing, was looking at other potential locations.
It looks like the vast majority of the games could happen within Calgary venues with very little investment beyond things we were going to build anyway or things we were going to renovate anyway. There may be a few things on the, and I shouldn't have just said Calgary, within Calgary and the Bow Valley, of course. There may be a couple of things that might have to shift around, but that will all come out probably by July.
The
Can you
topics?
say if Edmonton is part of this vision or not?
It might be. These are all questions that we're still debating.
Can I ask you on another topic?
Yes, please.
With regards to the Highland Park matter,
Yes.
there's some heavy-duty financial matters that are raised by that study. What are your thoughts about the next steps in this process?
Well, I'm not very pleased with where we are with this situation. I remember sitting in council and asking the question about drainage because the members of the community had shown us photos saying, look, after a rainfall in the summer, this golf course actually serves as a de facto storm pond. It's where the water goes. And I remember asking that question of administration during the public hearing or after the public hearing and being told, it's not a big deal, we just are going to go through this study. Turns out it's a pretty big deal. It's a pretty big deal for drainage through a bunch of North Calgary. So I'm not very happy that we took the process in this direction. We should have done this work prior to approving the land use plan for that community. That said, now we have to move forward and say, all right, what can we do in terms of making sure that drainage and flood protection is in place while still making sure that whatever happens on that land benefits the community as a whole.
So, protecting the green line kind of a priority?
Well, you got to protect the green line. You have to protect a whole swath of north central Calgary from flash flooding during a rain event. This is important stuff, and it's very important that we get it right.
So is this development proposal dead?
No, it is not. But it's certainly, well, I shouldn't say certainly, it will very likely require some significant modification.
There's a lot of people in that community who I think were frustrated about how their concerns are handled. Maybe they feel more vindicated now, but how do you view those people and what would you say to them?
You know, I know the people in that neighborhood very well. We've been working with them for a long time, and I brought their questions forward. And although I voted against that development in the end, I was satisfied with with the answers I was getting to the very important questions that were raised by the community. And it turns out those answers were not the best answers.
So why did council approve this project before the study was completed? It seems to be...
Yeah, well, you know, it would be easy for me to say, well, I voted against it, so don't ask me. But no, we asked that question. And it was very clearly laid out to us that there was no anticipation that the water study would find any major changes that would be required for the outline plan, and that turned out just not to be true.
Now, there's the possibility that once the developer applies for this project to the province could review it and possibly determine that the impact on the water in that area is too great and the project would be rejected.
Yeah, that is a very real possibility. And so it's really important that we work with the community, with the developer, and with the provincial government to figure out what modifications to that plan need to happen.
Folks, I need to wrap this up, so just a couple more questions.
Should the city not just maybe walk away from this project and buy the land from the developer?
I don't think we need to buy the whole thing. And I think even the members of the community would be very happy with some revitalization and investment in their neighborhood, especially so close to the Green Line. But we have to make sure that we're protecting not just this community, but that whole swath of north central Calgary from flooding.
One last question.
If the city buys, when council approved the land change last year, did that increase the value of the land? I mean, would the city be buying the land back at a premium now because of that decision?
That is a very, very good question. It certainly is one that came to me right away when I started looking at these reports, and unfortunately, I don't have an answer for it. You know, there is a certain amount of set aside that is part of that anyway. Some of that set aside land might have to be moved around. In addition to that, some of it the Alberta government might determine is sensitive land, which is a whole different mechanism. So it's a great question. It's a question that I'll continue to ask, and unfortunately there's no answer yet.
So it sounds like you're saying it doesn't have to be all or nothing. There could still be some development, but without spending $300 million on a tunnel.
That is precisely the analysis that we have to do.